Hello and welcome back to the lab. Today we're going to take a look at this Apple USB power adapter. And since it's Apple, I'm expecting it to be really good quality and very safe, but we'll see how good it actually is. So these are $20, which is expensive for a USB charger. But if the quality is really good, then that might be worth it. So let's plug it in. We still have the plastic on it. Let's plug it in. It hasn't exploded. And let's put in our USB tester. 5.02 volts, that's good. And it's only rated 1 amp, so I'm going to put a 1 amp load in. And we're still getting a good 5 volts at 1 amp. So this power supply is nice and stable. It's outputting 5 volts at 1 amp. It's not getting too hot. Let's try 2 amps just to see what happens. And the voltage collapses down to 3.2 volts, only drawing about 1.3 amps. But that's okay, because it's a 1 amp power supply, and it delivers 1 amp without a problem. So let's take it apart to see how good the quality is. This seems to be a single piece of molded plastic here, but there's a seam on the back, so I'm going to try to open it there. That is well held in place. I can't pry it open. Let's try cutting it open. Tried cutting it, and the plastic is fairly soft, but it's still not really separating. Let's try dremeling it. So I dremeled a hole into it. Maybe I can open it from that. All right. So what do we have? I don't think this is a real Apple power supply. I think this is counterfeit. Soldering job is terrible, and the capacitor across the transformer is not class Y. It's also using these very thin wires, which I don't think Apple would do, and this chip has no number on it. There's a very poor separation between the primary and the secondary. I can't even see what's primary and what's secondary. There are only a couple millimeters between the live input and the smoothing capacitor on the output. That is really unsafe. Let's desolder the transformer to see how bad it is. I thought this was a genuine Apple charger when I bought it. I bought it on eBay. I don't think Apple would make something this bad. With Huahong capacitors and a regular 1 kilovolt capacitor rather than a class Y capacitor, this is not safe. And there's poor separation between the primary and the secondary. So let's desolder the transformer to see how bad the isolation is there. Let's cut the core, and let's remove this first layer of tape. Lots of tape. This is the feedback winding. Feedback winding has 22 turns, and we have another layer of tape. There's a nick in the tape here, but I actually created that while I was cutting the wire, so. And under the tape we have the secondary, which I'm going to unwind. 11 turns. and more tape. There's a thick layer of tape between the primary and the secondary. So this is the primary, 150 turns. The primary has 150 turns. And the separation between the primary and the secondary on the actual transformer is fine, but the separation on the board is terrible. So I'm assuming the actual Apple chargers are decent. I haven't taken one apart yet. I intended to, but the one I bought turned out to be counterfeit. And even though the transformer is fine, the separation between the primary and the secondary on the circuit board is terrible. And it has these very thin wires. It has a track fuse rather than a proper fuse. I don't like it. It's not safe. And I wouldn't trust my phone with this counterfeit charger.